The flashlight is probably Dead by Daylight's most divisive item. You have some players who consider an item that is a huge detriment to the team, while you have other players who consider it to be overpowered. In reality, both of these outlooks hold some weight. In the wrong hands, a flashlight can cause survivors to waste time or even get themselves in trouble. But in the right hands, while not being an overpowering item, a flashlight can make the difference between winning and losing a game. The effectiveness of the flashlight solely depends on the user's skill more so than any other item in the game. In this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know about flashlights in order to become skilled with them as survivor and what to know to avoid them as killer. First, let's go over the basics. Flashlights are items in Dead by Daylight that allow survivors to blind killers by shining a bright light into their face, or whatever sits on top of their shoulders. As you blind a killer, the beam from the flashlight will grow narrower and narrower until it'll suddenly grow much larger. This means you've successfully blinded the killer. It should be noted that if the beam doesn't get narrower, this is because you either aren't shining directly into their face or the killer is running the perk Lightborn, which stops them from being blinded. Once a killer is blinded, their screen is fully blocked and they can only do quick attacks. There are 3 different types of flashlights in Dead by Daylight: uncommon, rare, and ultra rare. Each of these flashlights take 1 second to blind a killer and have 10 meters of range. The uncommon flashlight blinds the killer for 2 seconds and has 8 seconds of use time. The rare flashlight has increased accuracy, blinds the killer for 2 seconds, and has 8 charges. While 8 charges would usually mean the flashlight has 8 seconds of use time, the rare flashlight has a decreased battery depletion. So in reality, the flashlight actually has just under 9 seconds of use time, despite the item's description. This decrease in battery consumption also means that the rare flashlight benefits more from add-ons that increase the flashlight's charges when compared to the other 2 flashlights. The ultra rare flashlight has brighter beams, reduced accuracy, blinds the killer for 2.3 seconds, and has 12 seconds of use time. Flashlights also come with many add-ons that change and modify various aspects of the flashlight. The values the add-ons modify include accuracy, battery depletion, battery life, beam brightness, beam reach, beam width, and blindness duration. But what exactly do these effects entail? Accuracy refers to the shaky hand movements the survivor makes while aiming the flashlight. Really, this effect is barely noticeable, so add-ons to increase accuracy are unnecessary. The beam brightness refers to the visual brightness of the rays of light coming out of the flashlight, not the actual blinded screen. This increase in brightness can only be seen from the killer's perspective. Ultimately, I'd say this effect is mostly gimmicky and most killers probably wouldn't even notice the difference. Blindness duration is simply how long a killer is blinded. Add-ons that increase this time can be useful for allowing more time to run away after blinding. Battery life refers to how many charges a flashlight has. A charge is a unit used to measure the capacity of an item in Dead by Daylight. The more charges you have, the longer you can use the item. The longer you can use the flashlight, the better. So any add-on that increases your use time is always good. Battery depletion refers to how fast a flashlight goes through its charges. By default, flashlights go through 1 charge per second, so a battery with 8 charges will have 8 seconds of use time. Add-ons that decrease the battery depletion overall increase the use time of the flashlight, because with a smaller charge depletion rate, it'll take longer to use up all the charges. Inversely, add-ons that increase the battery depletion rate will make the flashlight have less use time. Just like add-ons that increase battery life, any add-on that increases the use time is good, so if an add-on decreases the battery depletion rate, it's a good pick. Beam reach and beam width can be explained together. Whenever you use a flashlight, a cone is emitted from it. If the killer is facing forward in this cone, they'll get blinded. The beam reach of the flashlight refers to the length of this cone. The beam width of a flashlight refers to the angle of this cone. For example, if you use the wide lens add-on, the increase of beam's width would increase the base of the cone, and the reduction of the beam's reach would cause the length of the cone to decrease. If you use the focus length add-on, the length of the cone would increase and the width of the base of the cone would decrease. Add-ons that increase beam reach can allow for blinds from faraway spots, and can be useful if you're confident with your aim. Now that we've covered all the basics of the flashlights, we can now go over when and when not to use them. When using a flashlight, your movement speed is greatly reduced. This means if you try to use it while a killer is moving towards you, the killer will reach you much sooner. Not to mention that the killer can just look slightly down to avoid the flashlight while still knowing where you are. It's for this reason that it's best to blind a killer chasing you while they're stuck in an animation. Examples of animations you can blind killers in are pallet stunts, pallet breaks, and even some vault animations. But just because a killer is in one of these animations you can blind them, doesn't mean you should. Let me explain. Let's say you're at this pallet on the map of the game, and you've just stunned the killer. There's only one direction you can go. Even if the killer is blind, they still know where you're going to go. If you do blind them, all you've done is wasted time you could have spent running away while they were stuck in an animation. So you should only blind a killer chasing you when they can't reliably guess where you're going to go, or else you're just wasting time. You should also be wary of blinding the killer while injured. Even if there's plenty of directions you could possibly run to after blinding the killer, a good killer will listen to your grunts and will be able to track you down even while blind. So to summarize, if you're being chased by the killer, you should try and blind them. When you're healthy, they're stuck in an animation and where there's many directions you can run to. But what if you're not being chased? Flashlights can still be a great tool to help your fellow survivors being chased. Usually, if a survivor isn't chased, you want to be doing gens. But if the survivor being chased is on dead hook or is being hard tunneled, using the flashlight to hinder the killer can be very helpful. Just like mentioned before, blinding the killer while they're stuck in an animation is very useful, especially because the survivor being chased won't be slowed down by the flashlight, meaning there's no downside for them. This also means that you can try blind the killer even while they're not stuck in an animation. While the killer will more than likely look away to avoid getting blinded, this will still make it slightly harder for the killer to chase the survivor, while the survivor being chased can continue at full speed. There's still another way that you can use your flashlight that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's for flashlight saves. A flashlight save is the most notorious way a flashlight can be used, but it's also the most tricky aspect of the item to master. In case you don't know, when you blind a killer who is carrying a survivor, they'll be stunned and drop the survivor they're holding. This is known as a flashlight save. While a flashlight save is possible at any moment the killer is holding a survivor, the killer can just look slightly down or up to avoid the flashlight beam. This means the best and most reliable time to get a flashlight save is during the pickup animation, as the killer's view is locked forward and they can't evade the light. When it comes to flashlight saves, there's two things you need to get good at in order to pull them off reliably. These two things are timing and positioning. Let's first go over timing. Timing refers to when you should shine your flashlight to ensure you get the flashlight save. If you shine it too early, the killer will be blinded, but they won't drop the survivor because they weren't carrying them at the time they were blinded. Shine it too late and the killer can quickly look away and avoid your flashlight altogether. This is why timing is so important. In previous versions of the game, you had to blind the killer exactly when the pickup animation ended, but now there's a 0.4 second window at the end of the pickup animation in which, if the killer is blinded, the flashlight save will be successful. We also know that a killer pickup animation takes approximately 3 seconds. This means the correct timing to start blinding the killer is anywhere from 1.6 to 2 seconds after the pickup animation is started. To better visualize this, here's a mock-up video I've made which shows the window in which you can start blinding the killer. It should also be noted that ping can affect this window, so if you notice you're in a high ping lobby, it's safer to try and wait closer to 2 seconds than to 1.6 seconds. With enough practice, this timing should start to come easy to you. Now all you need to worry about is how you can get into a position where you can blind the killer. Positioning is the tricky bit of a flashlight save. Unlike timing, it's not something you just learn off once and something the killer can counter. In order to be in a good position to get the flashlight save, you need to be close to the killer and in front of them. You should also try and stay hidden until the killer starts to pick up, or else they could just do a quick 180 and you won't make it in time. You also need to know when to start positioning yourself. If you decide you want to get a flashlight save but the survivor never goes down, you've just spent time you could have spent on the gen sitting around. If you try to position yourself too late, the killer will have already picked up the survivor and you won't be able to get the flashlight save. So ideally, you want to position yourself just a little before the survivor gets downed. The easiest way to do this is to be in a survivor with friends. Once the survivor being chased thinks they're going to go down soon, they can call it out and you can run over for the save. If you're not in a survivor with friends, perks like Bond and Empathy can help you see when a survivor may need help. Even without these perks, if you hear an injured survivor near you being chased, it mightn't hurt to wait around for a few seconds to see if they have any pallets or windows to work with. If there isn't, you should try to position yourself accordingly. Sprint Burst is also a very good perk for positioning, as it allows you to move more distance during the short time that you have to set up when the killer starts to pick up animation. So in summary, good positioning involves being in front of the killer and out of their sight, and you should try and position yourself just a little before the survivor goes down. Now that we've gone over how and when to use a flashlight, there's still one more thing to cover, and that's unique killer interactions. Certain killers and their powers are uniquely affected by flashlights. Out of the 30 killers in the game, none of them have unique interactions with flashlights. Here are these killers and their interactions. If you shine your flashlight at the wraith for 2 seconds while he's cloaked, you'll stun him for 3 seconds and decloak him. This is known as light burning. You also don't have to shine his face. If you see a wraith before he starts uncloaking, light burning him can waste some of his time and allow you to get a head start when running away. Similarly to the wraith, the nurse can also be light burned, but it's much more tricky. In order to light burn the nurse, she needs to be charging a blink. This is hard to pull off because if the nurse realizes what's happening, she can just let go of the blink. The nurse also has a second interaction as well. If you shine your flashlight at the nurse, she'll be unable to charge your blink for as long as the flashlight is on her. This is best done after the nurse's first blink so you can force her into a fatigue. Both Michael Myers and Ghostface can't stalk while they're blinded. If you shine a flashlight near a hag trap, it'll reveal its aura. If you shine it directly on a trap, it'll be destroyed. If you shine your flashlight at the spirit's husk while she's in phase mode, it'll be destroyed. This will get rid of the tear radius emitted from the husk. The Legion can be brought out of their Feral Frenzy power if they're blinded, but they'll receive no stun. This means they can quick attack immediately after being blinded. For this reason, you shouldn't try and blind the Legion if they're too close and coming towards you while you're injured. Nemesis zombies can be stunned for 15 seconds plus the blindness duration of the flashlight if a flashlight is shown in their face for 1 second. Their collision hitbox will also be reduced, allowing you to be able to slip past them. This can allow time to quickly finish a gen or even block doorways if timed correctly. Finally, the artist's crows can be removed if a flashlight is shown on them for 1 second. This includes both dire crows and crows surrounding other survivors. This can be hard to pull off in a chase due to being slowed down by the flashlight, but can be very useful for helping other survivors in a chase. That concludes everything you need to know about flashlights in Dead by Daylight. I hope this video has given you a better understanding on how to use one of Dead by Daylight's most fun items. If you have any other flashlight tips and tricks, you can leave them down in the comments to help others learn. I'd like to thank you for making it this far, and I hope you enjoyed your time. If you liked this video, you may enjoy some of my other videos. Currently, only 18.5% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you're not subscribed and you'd like to see more videos like this, I'd ask that you do subscribe. If you'd like to see behind the scenes of my videos or updates about upcoming videos, you can follow me on Twitter. That's all for now. Thank you, and goodbye.